So we start the fourth consecutive lecture, and I'm going to shift now to the predatory publishers or predatory publication. So when ethics in publication is violated, the authors move to publish their research work in certain journals or certain publication houses. So therefore, before we enter into the publication journals or predatory journals, let's understand the meaning of predatory, and it falls under the predatory publishers. So first let us define what is predatory publisher. A predatory publisher is an opportunistic publishing venue that exploits the academic need to publish, but offers little reward for those using their services. And that's what the predator publisher means. There is a trust which is put upon the academic community as either you publish or you perish. So this academic publish or perish scenario, when combined with the relative ease of the website creation, has inadvertently created a market ripe for the exploitation of academic authors. Some publishers are predatory on purpose, while others may make mistakes due to neglect, mismanagement, or inexperience. While the motivation and methods vary, predatory publishers have common characteristics. Now let me make you clear about what is predatory. Predatory, that means which feeds upon the original journal. So they are in disguise of the established journals, and they trap the authors and publish their work in lieu of certain money. And it compromises at every level. The peer review is compromised, and the authors get a publication very easily. So all these predatory publishers throughout the world, they have common characteristics. Their primary goal is to make money. That is, there must be fees, publication fees. They do not care about the quality of the work published. That is, no or little editing or peer review. So there is no question of peer review. They make false claims or promises. What's that false claim? Now you have heard about the impact factors, indexing of the journals. They go on claiming a fictitious impact factor assigned to their particular publishing house or journals. So they engage in unethical business practices, and therefore it is not as advertised. So they fail to follow the accepted standards or best practices of scholarly publishing. There are various scholarly publishing houses, but those houses, they follow an accepted standard. But this predatory publishers, they fail to follow the accepted standard. So how the scam works actually? The predatory publishers exploit a new publishing model by claiming to be legitimate open access operation. Now you must understand what is open access operation. Renowned journals have an access called gold access, gold open access. So if you pay money, then your publication will be open to everyone, and anyone can download that particular paper that's published in a journal. Otherwise, they need to wait for a long period of time before someone can access it easily. So accessibility is not given to most of the papers of renowned journals. Either you have to pay for it right? Because they are publishing your results, your scholarly work. In lieu of that, it makes a business by selling your, you know, the published papers. So online predatory publishers, they also go for an open access, but they take the height under the blanket of golden open access model that most of the prestigious journal go for. So under this model publication, so they do what? They do such a charge. They charge, and these charges provide the publishers with income instead of subscription. So it is important to realize, right, that open access does not make a publisher predatory. Their bad behavior does it. The predatory publishers makes false claim, such as very quick peer review to lure, to attract unwary authors into submission of papers. So while sending to a predatory publisher, a manuscript may see it published, there is no guarantee that it underwent peer review, is included in indexes like Web of Science and Scopus, or that it will be available in a month, much less than in 5 years. Then what is the harm in publishing your results associated with predatory publishing houses? Predatory publishers do authors a disservice. Why? Because it claims to be a full service publisher. Remember, as an author, you are providing a valuable product, and legitimate publishers provide valuable service to protect your work. Some of the dangers of publishing with a predatory publisher that I'm going to follow up in the coming slides. So your work may be the subject to subpar peer review. So when your work is examined or neither examined by any peer review, your standard or the quality of your manuscript do not increase. So the peer review system isn't perfect, but there is general consensus that papers that undergo peer review are better for it. If you plan to seek promotion or tenure, you want to make sure that you are publishing in a place that values your work and is willing to devote time and resource to improving it. That's what the classical non-predatory journals do. So your work could disappear. After some time, your work can disappear. One of the advantages of publishing with a responsible publisher is that they make commitments to preserve your work. Opportunists looking to make a quick buck are not going to care if your paper is still available in 5 years or much less tomorrow. This situation is the stuff of nightmares if you plan to go up for tenure or promotion. So in order to get a very hasty tenureship or promotion and you go for publishing in a predatory journal, there is no guarantee that your paper or your publication would be preserved by that particular organization. So your work will be hard to find. Some predatory publishers, they advertise that they are included in well-known databases like Web of Science or Scopus, when they are not. Since Iowa State University subscribes to hundreds of databases, including the two mentioned, this is easy to check. While most predatory journals will probably be covered by Google Scholar, your work won't be as visible if it is missing from other research databases. So your work might go under the scanning of Google Scholar and it could be included, but if it is missing in other research databases, your work will be hard to find. So finding out you have been a victim of a scam is never fun, while the repercussion of publishing with questionable publisher is still largely unknown, and there have been a very few documented cases where it hurt careers. So here is the reference, and you can type this and get your guidance about whether your publication house is a predatory or a real one. So there are types of predators. Now we'll get into the more details about the predators. What are the different types of predators out there? There are 4 common types of predatory publishers. They are characterized by different behaviors. The first one is Fisher, P-H-I-S-H-E-R. It lures you in with promises, then charges large fees after your papers have been accepted. So initially they hide that there is a price attached to the publication, and it lures you with promises, but then it charges. So publication fees are usually not openly disclosed, and after acceptance, these fishers may demand payment even though no paperwork has been signed. So the first type of predators are the fishers. The second one, the type is imposter or hijackers. It poses as a well-established journal or as a publication associated with a well-known brand or society. Often these journals tack on an extra word to an existing journal name, such as advances in microbiology, advances in cellular physiology. So they use generally these type of words, advances, review, or reports, or create websites that appear to be affiliated to another publication, but they are actually not. So they are the imposters or hijackers. And the third type is Trojan Horse. Means it has a legitimate looking website. So if you visit their website, you'll find everything is there. So it is like a Trojan horse, often with impressive list of publication. But when you closely inspect, nothing is what is it seems. So the journals are actually empty shells, or worse, populated by stolen or plagiarized articles. So this is the third type of predator. And the last type of predators are unicorn, too good to be true. These publishers may in fact be legitimate businesses which are not providing good products or customer support or service. Common problems that may include is no archival policy. So when there is no archiving policy, meaning your publication could disappear at any time. Missing or ill-defined peer review criteria, that how your work is getting reviewed, that is not clearly spelled, and possibly they are publishing ethics after violating the ethics. So, and possible publishing ethics violation. So these are the 4 different types of predators. Now how can you identify a predator is the next big question. Now out of your ignorance you may be trapped. So you should know really that how to identify a predator. Deciding if a publisher is predator is often a matter of evaluating the publisher practices against expectations. While not foolproof, there are 13 warning signals, which I am going to explain one after another, are the evidence-based and serve as a good starting point to identify a predator. Now these are the warning signs, right? What is that? The journal's scope of interest includes unrelated subject alongside legitimate topics. So it has become very wide. Okay, so that is the first warning signal that one should get warned that this journal or this publishing house is really a predator publisher. Website content spelling and grammar errors. So if you find errors in spelling and grammar, so this is a second warning that this may be a predatory publishing house. Images or logos that they put are distorted, they are fuzzy, misinterpreted, unauthorized. The website, this type of website targets authors, not the readers. That is, publisher prioritizes making money over product. The index Copernicus value, this is a bogus impact metric. They promote this. So if you find that they are putting Copernicus value as an index, be sure that this is a predatory publishing house. So there is no clear description of how the manuscript is going to be handled. And another very interesting, they ask the manuscript to be submitted by email. So they do not have a organized, submission protocol like other journals. So you need to go into the journal, then you need to sign, you need to register, and they ask many important information. You need to put them, and then only you are allowed to submit your, your paper. But these type of predatory journals or publishing house, they ask the manuscript through email, and rapid publication is promoted. Let's say if you submit today, a week after you might see that your manuscript is published online. And there is no article retraction policy. Means if somebody claims that this has the false data, plagiarized data, in other cases there is a retraction policy, but for these type of predatory publishing houses, they don't have the article retraction policy. So there is no digital preservation plan for the content. And you will be surprised that the article processing charge, which is something around 2,500 euro or dollars to $4,000 in cases of open gold access. But these type of predatory journals, the APC or the article processing charge is very low, approximately $150, which an author can bear by his or her own pocket. A journal that claims to be open access, they either retains copyright of published research or fails to mention copyright. So this is another important point. And contact email that they give is a non-professional and non-journal or publisher affiliated. For example, at gmail.com, at yahoo.com, these type of email addresses are to be questioned. So there are also additional warning signs. For example, publishing fees and costs, they are not openly disclosed or easy to locate. But for classical journals, where they charge for the article processing, so they have a fixed policy, and you know that how much you need to pay. But in case of predatory journal, this can be compromised. This can be, you can go on bargaining with the publishing house regarding the publication fees. So it's a standard practice to let authors know the cost of production or cost of publication before submission. This is a part of OSPA code of conduct. Next important point is the peer review process is not clearly explained or is not to discipline standards. So you must beware of promises of quick peer review, as this can be the mark of a publisher who values profit over quality. There is concern that papers submitted to these journals which advertise this type of service are not actually providing peer review. Next additional warning sign is it advertises a journal impact factor but does not have one. So all false impact factor is, you can find them in the website. As a member of the Iowa State University, you can access to the journal citation reports from which you can look up the trademarked journal impact factors as calculated by Clarivate Analytics. So it takes a moment to check. So you can really check whether the impact factor that these predator publishing houses claim, whether they are false or correct. You can just check it. The publishers or journal's name is suspiciously similar to the well-known publication. Let me tell you, give you an example. For example, Nature Advances kinds of sounds that is associated with the Nature Publication House or Nature Publishing Group. But this Nature Advances is a predatory publishing house because it predates that particular word called nature. And there is a well-known journal, Nature, but is it that Nature Advances is under the Nature Publishing Group? If you are unsure, it's a good idea to check the publisher's website and make sure that both journals are published by the same group. Now, what are the resources to check for suspicious activity? The number one is the Retraction Watch. What is that? Retraction Watch chronicles article retraction and sometimes uncovers ethical violation and suspicious activity in the process. So you can have a watch on this retraction process. Okay? If all these things fails, for example, to you to understand whether a journal is a predatory journal or a proper journal, you can try contacting a member of the editorial board of the journal and seek a second opinion from a peer with publishing experience. Or else you ask a librarian for help, because librarians have an access to the world publishing houses. So your librarian can help you in ascertaining that the desired journal that you have thought to publish, whether it is a predatory or a real journal. So you have to avoid predators. So think first, then check, then submit. So a checklist to help you choose the trusted journal for your research must be on your table. So fact checking is very important. The library guide on journal evaluation tools. So this guide, that is library guide on journal evaluation tools, it provides a lot of information on journal metrics and can help you fact check the journal's information, such as impact factor. Or you can go by the journal evaluation tools by Lori Pelak, which has been last updated in October 28, 2020. And October 28, 2020, and there have been a lot of views from this particular tools to people check. So let me put forward certain general advice. Be cautious. Don't sign anything or send payment if you are unsure. Consider talking with university legal counsel. So if you are suddenly appointed an article to review without your consent, okay, you are under no obligation to review something that you did not volunteer for. You may want to contact the publisher and tell them that you did not agree to review and or to not contact you again. So you can do that. You can add the sender's mail to the junk or spam list. So if your name is misappropriated, you must have to contact the journal or publisher immediately and ask that they take your name off for good of all their materials. Make it clear in other venues that you do not associate with the publication, and for which you should consider talking with the university legal counsel. And now this happens. Yes, this happens. So predatory publishers have been known to list peoples, right, as editors, board members, or reviewers. Suddenly you can find, the author may find his name as in the editorial board without their knowledge. If such things happen, be careful that you are trapped by these predatory publishers. So my next talk will be on the predatory journals. Thank you for listening to the first part on predation of publication. First, I have considered the publishers. Now I'm going to go into the details of predatory journals. Now look at this figure. This is a fox which is put on the wolves. Guys, so actually this is a picture that is demonstrating predatory journal. So what is a predatory journal? This take advantage of authors by asking them to publish for a fee without providing the peer review or editing services. Because predatory publishers do not follow the proper academic standards for publishing, they usually offer a quick turnaround on publishing a manuscript. So in contrast, high quality academic journals take longer time to publish articles because they go through a proper peer review and copy editing process. And how are these predatory journals different from the open access journals? I just touched the point in my previous lecture on predatory publisher, but I have not dealt in details about the open access journals. Now, open access journals, they may solicit authors to publish for a fee. That's true. But they maintain very high standards for peer review and editing. Now, why people go for open access? Because you want to distribute your research to a maximum number of people. So the goal of open access publishing is to disseminate research to a larger audience by removing the paywalls. I told you that if it is not being given a gold open access, then you have to pay for, if someone wants to read your paper, have to pay for it and get that particular paper downloaded. But once you go for an open access, anybody, any audience, any reader who would love to go through your paper can access or download without any charge. So open access journals can have impact factors and can create a citation advantage for the authors. That means more number of readers read your paper, the probability or propensity to cite your paper is more. So when you reach to a large audience, there is that will make sense, because that is going to create a citation advantage. So in 2013, John Bohn, okay, he made an experiment. So it is a famous experiment, Bohn-Annon's experiment. He is a staff writer for the journal, and which is a well-known journal throughout the world. You know it, Science, and it is known for popular science publication. And this is tested the open access system by submitting to a number of such journals a deeply flawed paper on purported effect of lichen constituent. So they created a paper and they sent this paper to several journals and published the result in a paper called Who's Afraid of Peer Review? From this experiment, this famous John Bohn-Annon's experiment, it was found that about 60% of the journals including the journals of Elsevier, Sage, Walter Kluwer, through its subsidiary Medno, and several universities. Okay, they accepted the faked medical paper. This is a nice experiment Bohn and Norm did to understand that what happens when you submit the paper and who is afraid of peer review, right? So the interesting observation is 60% of those journals, including the journals of Elsevier, Sage and Walter Kluwer, they have accepted this faked medical paper. So they created this, Bohn created a fake paper and submitted, and that got accepted. But interestingly, at that time, PLOS ONE and Hindavi, these two journal houses, they rejected it. Now there is another experiment I'm going to explain you, Dr. Fraud's experiment, how it was done. In 2015, 4 researchers, right, they created a fictitious subpar scientist named Anna O. Zust, or Zust in Polish means fraud, and applied on our behalf for an editor position. So a name was created with a fictitious CV, and it was applied for editor position to 360 scholarly journals. Zust, actually the meaning is the fraud's qualification were dismal for the role of an editor. She had never published a single article and had no editorial experience. The books and books chapters that were listed on her CV were all made up of. So it is all false data, as were the publishing houses that published the books. Now what happened? See, this experiment resulted fantastically. 1/3 of the journals, okay, to which this Zust applied were sampled from the Beale's list of predatory journals. 40 of these predatory journals, they accepted Zust as the editor without any background vetting, and often within days or even hours. So by comparison, she received minimal to no positive response from the control journals. That means which are the real journals that were there, which must meet certain standards of quality, including ethical publishing practices. So among the journals sampled from the Directory of Open Access Journal, in shortly we call it as DOAJ, D-O-A-J, from this 8 of 120, means 8 journals of this 120 DOAJ journals, they accepted Zust. The DOAJ has since removed some of the affected journals in a 2016 purge. So these houses, these are controlling these groups or directory, they sometimes they purge and they find out these fake journals, like that in UGC, right? So when UGC has to publish a list and had to reject lot of predatory journals, right? So DOAJ and did the same type of thing and found that none of these 120 sample journals listed in the journal citation reports, they offered Zust the position. So out of 120 journals, they did not use it because those are real journals which were which always care for certain standards of quality. The result of this experiment, okay, this is the famous Dr. Fraud's experiment, and this result was published in Nature in March 2017 and widely presented in the press, because Nature have done this experiment and published this result in favor of the authors to understand the difference between predatory journals and the real journals. Now these are the references. Kluger, Jeffrey, dozens of scientific journals offered her a job, but she didn't exist. So this is this is the title and which is published in Times. So likewise, you will get references. So how can you spot a predatory journal? The first question is, do you or your colleagues know the journal? Do you recognize the editorial board? The second question that should pop up in your mind is, can you easily contact the publisher? Is the journal clear about their peer review process? Is it clear what fees will be charged? If the answer is no for any of this question, the journal is most likely questionable, if not predatory. So there is no list to rule them. Okay, so these are the suspected predatory journals, and these are the legitimate journals, and the Beale's list have highlighted the issue of the predatory journals but faced criticism over the transparency and legal threats listed titles. It ceased to operate in 2017. This is Cabell's predatory. Some journals deemed legitimate by the DOAJ were deemed predatory by Beale's and Cabell's list. DOAJ, they relies mainly on information from the publishers. It regularly purges. So it does that surveillance task, you know. It regularly purges the titles that do not meet the quality. That means the quality criteria. So there is no list to rule them out. You need to be a little bit more suspicious and then do your own mechanism of finding out whether the journals that you have thought that you will publish is a predatory or not. So how do I check to see if my journal is reputable? There isn't, I tell you, one foolproof way to determine if a journal is predatory. It requires a bit of detective work. You need to act as a detective. So here are some few places you can search to determine the quality of an open access journal. Now, is the journal open access? And if it is so, is it listed in the directory of open access journals that we are often referring to now? That is DOAJ. So you search the directory of open access journal. Be sure to limit your search to journals only. The DOAJ carefully vets open access journals for inclusion. So if the journal is not listed in the DOAJ, it means that it is questionable. Then you search the Medline. Okay, is the journal indexed in the Medline? Search for NLM catalog. If the record says not currently indexed for Medline, it means the journal may be questionable. Just because a journal is not indexed in Medline does not mean that journal is automatically questionable. But it could also mean that the journal is too new for Medline or it is out of scope. So next question comes, has the journal been identified by others as predatory? Because Cabell always gives Cabell's predatory reports. So Google your journal title with the word predatory. You may be easily, for example, let's say advances in genetics. If it is a predatory journal, then type this in the query column and put predatory, comma, after comma you write predatory. You will get the search results. So does the journal have an impact factor, or do they list one on their website? Then be aware of it. Okay, if a journal is claiming to have an impact factor, be sure to confirm this through official journal citation reports database. Unless you find in that database the existence of an impact factor which is being given to a journal, before that you have to question it. Only journals vetted through JCR can officially state that they have an impact factor. Many predatory journals will make up an impact factor in an attempt to appear reputable. And finally, you need to ask a librarian, because these librarians of any universities, they are trained to spot predatory journals. So don't hesitate to ask for a second opinion. We can also help you to find out a reputable journal in your subject area, which can be common, vocabulary that a librarian can give you. So how common are these predatory journals? Now, I can give you an estimate. As of 2015, just 5 years back, there was an estimated 996 predatory publishers, including 447 publishers of standalone journals that published over 11,800 journals. So can you imagine that there are publishers amounting nearly 1,000? That means 996 predatory publishers, and they are publishing 11,800 journals. Out of those, roughly 8,000 journal titles were active and published a total of approximately 420,000 articles. Mind it, this 420,000 articles published by the authors in fake journal or predatory journals. For comparison, this is roughly the same size in both journal titles and article published as the legitimate open access publishing industry. So this is a parallel industry. The legitimate open access publishing industry versus the predatory publishing houses. So not all these predatory journals are in biomedicine fields, but biomedicine, mind it, is a major area of predatory publishers. And the prevalence of predatory journals, they vary between specific fields. So roughly 15% of articles published in predatory journals are from United States authors. Very interesting. So 15% of these predatory articles which are published in predatory journals, out of 100, 15 belongs to United States authors. However, this accounts for less than 1% of the United States total research output. Okay, so out of 100 published from United States, only one you can spot like this. But if you talk about the total number of publication in these predatory journals, at least 15% are being contributed by the United States authors. So these are the list of predatory publisher. Is just a view. I am just a snapshot of A. So likewise, B, C, D, E, F till Z, you will get a huge list of predatory publishers. Now, Erickson and Helgesens, they have given 25 criteria. In 2016, these researchers, Erickson and Helgesen, they identified 25 signs of predatory publishing. They warned that a journal will not necessarily be predatory if they meet one of the criteria. But the more points on the list that apply to the journal at hand, the more skeptical you should be. So I have given you the list. Okay, the publisher is not a member of COPE or EASE. The journal is not indexed. So these are all the criteria. Is not indexed in the well-established electronic database like Medline or Web of Science. The publisher claims to be a leading publisher even though it just got started. The journal and the publisher are unfamiliar to you and all your colleagues. The paper on the journals are of very poor research quality and may not be academic at all. There are fundamental errors in the titles and abstracts. So that is a big question. That all these type of publications are coming out from very raw authors, okay, or frequent or repeated typographical or factual errors published throughout the published papers. The journal website is not professional. The journal website does not present any editorial board, so it does not give you sufficient details on the names and affiliation. it is highly suspicious. The journal website does not reveal the editor's policy or location, incorrect address. The publishing schedule is also not clearly stated. The journal claims a national affiliation that does not match its location, such as American Journal of ... while being located on another continent, or includes international in its title while having a single country editorial board. So these are the criteria by which you can identify that this journal is a fake journal, is a predatory journal. So these journals, they mimic another journal's title or the website of the same journal. The journal provides impact factor, but that impact factor, you cannot be calculated because it is new. So if a just newborn journal cannot have impact factor. The journal claims an unrealistically high impact based on spurious alternative impact factors, such as 7 for a bioethics journal, which is far beyond the top notation. So if you find 7 against a bioethics journal, you have no other choice but to just to reject it as predatory journal. The journal website posts non-related or non-academic advertisement. That is another issue. The publisher of the journal has released an overwhelmingly large suite of new journals at one occasion or during a very short period of time. This cannot happen. The editor-in-chief of that journal is editor-in-chief also for other journals with widely different focus. So how come the editor-in-chief of the journal is the editor-in-chief also for other journals with widely different focus? It's questionable. The journal includes articles outside its stated scope. This is a long list of understanding. The journal can send you an unsolicited invitation to submit an article. That is quite suspicious. Emails from the journal editors who gives you the email are written in very poor English language. And they include exaggerated flattery, like you have to respond and make contradictory claims. The journal charges a submission or handling fee instead of publication fee. So when they charge a handling fee, be suspicious. The type of submission or publication fees and what they amount to are not clearly stated in the journal's website. So the journal gives unrealistic promises regarding the speed of the peer review process. So that will give you a hint. So hinting that the journal's peer review process is minimal or non-existent. Okay? So journal does not describe copyright agreements clearly or demands the copyright of the paper while claiming to be an open access journal. The journal displays no strategies of how to handle this misconduct, conflict of interest, or secure archiving of articles when no longer in operation. So there is no defined strategy. But when you look at the growth and structure, the predatory journals have rapidly increased their publication volumes. In 2010, it was 53,000 such publications. And it has grown up to 420,000 articles in 2014, published by around 8,000 active journals. So early on, the publishers with more than 100 journals dominated the market. But since 2012, publishers in the 10 to 99 journal size category have captured the largest market share. The regional distribution of both publishers, country and authorship is highly skewed, with 3/4 of its authors from Asia or Africa. And the authors paid an average fee of $178 US, each of the article to be published rapidly without review, typically within 2 to 3 months of submission. So this is the trap. As reported in 2019, some 5% of Italian researchers have published in predatory journals, with a third of those journals engaging in fraudulent editorial practices. Look here. This is a screenshot of a great predatory publishing house called Omics. So this Omics publishing house has number of journals in their sleeves. Okay, you see, articles published 16,771. So Federal Trade Commission, and there was a legal battle between the Omics group. So on 25 August 2016, Federal Trade Commission filed a lawsuit against this Omics group, right? And they are accused of deceiving academics and researchers about the nature of its publication and hiding publication fees ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars. And this FTC, or Federal Trade Commission, was also responding to the pressure to take action against these predatory publishers. But attorneys for the Omics group, they published a response on their website claiming, within quote, "Your FTC allegations are baseless. Further, we understand that FTC working towards favoring some subscription-based journal publisher who are earning, okay, billions of dollars from," there is a mistake, okay, so I said scientist literature, suggesting that corporations in the scientific publication business were behind this allegation. In March 2019, the FTC won the suit in a summary judgment and was awarded $501,308.11 in damage and a broad injunction against this Omics practice. So you can think the amount of fine the Omics have to pay, and that was the summary judgment against Omics predatory practices. This is another predatory publication. I'm just putting for your reference. This is the International Journal of Scientific Research, right? So they publish like this, you know. This is their website. So they write the 26.94 acceptance ratio, 100 articles from all over 100 countries. Manuscript submitted 36,572 and published 9,800. These are all fake documents. Here you see they have published the UGC Care Journal approval status. They said that IJSR is a peer-reviewed journal and valid as per new UGC Gazette regulation. You go, you check yourself, you will never find the name of this particular journal in the UGC list. So this is how they trap the authors. Thank you.